It is 6 p.m. I am Patty Richards. I'm the Vice Chair of the Underhill Selectboard, and I'm calling the meeting of Thursday, June 13th, 2024 to order. Bob Stone, our Chair, unfortunately was called away on an emergency fire call, so he'll hopefully be joining us shortly. We have in attendance Dan Steinbauer, Maureen Collins-Kolb, and Dan Kelsey. Welcome the new 2 Selectboard members. Welcome aboard. So that's our first item on the agenda. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? I'm going to make one adjustment, which is to remove under Town Administrator, removal of the mobile phone stipend request. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with that amendment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maureen. Is there any more discussion or changes to the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of the agenda as modified, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 4-0. Next on the agenda is opening public comment. Is there any opening public comment? Thank you.
Yeah.
Why don't you come on up?
Please comment.
Let us know your name.
All right.
And if you do us the honor to let us know your name and just what road you live on. In
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I was over there. Tony Julianelle, High Meadows Road, Underhill. First, a little recommendation. I noticed if you just had a little cardboard name plaques in front of you, that would be helpful.
I was thinking that same thing this morning.
Yeah.
I agree.
Nothing fancy.
Good suggestion.
Also, who are the new members who were just elected?
So Maureen.
Okay, yeah. So I just want to.
Dan Kelsey are the new members that were elected.
I want to congratulate both of you and commend you for stepping up to public service. I understand you're both very new to Underhill, like a year or 2 years. So I would urge you in the first 6 months, do a lot of listening, especially to your other board members and to the town hall staff. They have a lot of knowledge which you can't pick up an understanding in a year or two. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's just a recommendation that for the first 6 months, just do a whole lot of listening, especially to your fellow board members who I've seen their work over the years, and I think it's been very good. That's all.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other public comment? Anyone from the public that would like to speak from here in the building or on the television? All right, we'll close public comment. Next on our agenda is to welcome the new select board members and do some introductions. Welcome to both of you. Congratulations. Excited to have you on. I'll start. I'm Patty Richards, and I joined in roughly 2000. Is that right? No, 2001, in that vicinity. I'm getting old. Joined. I was appointed. I filled an open seat.
2021.
2000.
Oh,
Right, that makes more sense.
2021. Joined an open seat, and Dan and Bob selected me to join them as to fulfill the 3-member board, and then I ran for a regular 3-year term roughly the next year. I've enjoyed my work here. It's been great working with Dan and Bob, and welcome the both of you, and look forward to working with both of you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, do you want to? Dan?
I just would like to give the new members a little tutorial on the mics. So in order to get on the record or in order to speak, you have to touch the button on the mic and make sure it's green. Otherwise, no one's hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan Steinbauer, do you want to introduce yourself to the new members?
Certainly. Dan Steinbauer, I can't remember when this time, I was on the board 10 years ago, but I was appointed, I think, in 2018, maybe 2017.
Sounds close.
Yeah, and so I have some experience and am, value being on the board. And I think it'll be a good experience for the two of you, and I welcome you wholeheartedly. I think that you will fit in just fine.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Dan Kelsey. Moved to Underhill in September of 2021. We're up on Pinnacle Ridge, right across from Casey's Hill. Absolutely love the town. Really, we've gotten to know a lot of the neighbors, including Maureen, and everybody's been very, very welcoming and warm, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, was to give back to the community. So looking forward to it. I take your recommendation for listening. That was my intent, because there is a lot to come up to speed on and hear different perspectives. So very much looking forward to that.
Just to have you pull your mic down a little bit. There, perfect.
Thank you, Dan. Maureen?
Sure. So I'm Maureen Collins-Kolb, and my family moved to Underhill in May of last year. So we've been here about a year, and similar to Dan, have had a wonderful experience in Underhill and really found this to be a very warm and welcoming and unique place that has a really strong sense of identity and character that we've fallen in love with, and wanted to be a part of helping preserve and protect that and kind of help in whatever way I can. I also live on Pinnacle Ridge over there by Casey's Hill. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to being a part of working with this group, and also appreciate the advice. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you both for running and being elected, and it's great to have the participation and the community involvement. Thank you. All right, let's move now to committee appointments.
So there was a memo in your packet from Michael Lamont, chair of the Energy Committee. And Gerry Adams has been a long time public servant in Underhill, served on many, many boards, including the Select Board, and is interested in rejoining the Energy Committee, which he sat on for many years. So that's in your packet.
Okay, I'd like to thank Steve Webster for his service on the Energy Committee. He was the gentleman that submitted his recommendation, and we're fortunate to have Gerry Adams express interest. So I will make a motion so that we can discuss and hopefully move quickly Gerry Adams and his committee recommendation to the Underhill Energy Committee. Is there a second? Thank you, Dan.
I'll
Any
second.
discussion? Thank you. I'll have to say Dan Steinbauer because we have two Dans. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Gerry Adams to the Underhill Energy Committee, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 4-0.
I'd like to thank Steve Webster too. I neglected to thanks for that, Patty, but also very long-standing member.
It's great to have his service. Okay, that's the only committee appointment, correct, Brad?
Correct.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the food truck nights. We have a member, we have a memo from Anton Kelsey and the Recreation Committee to Brad. And we'll let Anton give a presentation.
You want me to put it up on the screen? Okay, let's do that. Just bear with me for a second here, please. Just going to go slow because this always kind of baffles me.
I have faith in you.
Thanks.
Well,
Hang on.
okay. For the record, Anton Kelsey. Congratulations on being new members to the board.
Thank you.
So the floor is yours, Anton.
Okay. So first, we were here a few weeks ago to present and ask about potentially closing the road in front of essentially the town hall during the 4 food truck nights. Well, trying it for one of the events and seeing how it went. Obviously, if we were to do this, there'd be some road closure involved here with some detours. And when we came a few weeks ago, there was some concerns about the rerouting of traffic, making sure people had fair warning, how we would signage and some of that sort of thing. So we're back here today to show some specifics for those particular pieces. So up on the screen, we have the map here. Essentially what we're asking is to really only have the road close right in front of the building here. So it would be open to Beartown. And it would more or less, for all intents and purposes, be open to up to, essentially the lot here. But for the purposes of the detour, it would be Sand Hill Road up and around and down to Settlement Road. But people would be able to access every house and dwelling. And we would just close from here. So you can see on the map how that would look in terms of closures. And then there were questions about where and when we would do signage. And the feeling was that we could do signage about a week ahead of time, do a piece down in the flats when people hit River Road, have another one that's right at Sand Hill Road where the detour would be happening, do something through the center, and then have some signage on the other side coming the other way so people had a few days to digest that information and plan for it. And we could also post to the forum and a few other places to let people know. And then the reasoning for this is to, obviously we have the event here, it draws a good amount of people, expands usable space a bit. There's certainly considerations about safety, just with the number of people and children around. And it just makes it more a pedestrian friendly type of event. And if it were something that was successful in the future, we could consider what we would do with some of that space, and we could consider, potentially having food trucks move there, or even doing things like having, different types of things there that would add to the event itself. So if we feel like it would add a lot to the event in terms of the space and the feel. Obviously, there would be some impact on the local community in terms of driving. So they ask us to give this a shot, see how it goes, and if it goes well, it's something we could try for the remaining food trucks throughout the summer.
Anton, were you able to reach out to the neighbors that would be most impacted for the closure piece?
Did we do that? I don't think we actually reached out to the neighbors that were right here. The one reach out we did was to try to attain some signs from neighboring towns, and we weren't successful in hearing back from them on that piece yet.
Okay.
I'll put a motion on the table so we can discuss further.
Okay.
I move that we accept the rec committee's proposal for road closure during the food truck night on the 21st, is it? Friday. And according to their wonderful detailed plan.
I'll second that. All right, now we're open for discussion. Can we go back to the 2-mile detour?
Yes.
Part?
Yep.
Go one more up. There's one in our board packet. The space that's open, I assume this will be completely blocked off to traffic. Nobody can go through, correct?
In front of the building here?
This little open space.
Correct, yeah, essentially just that space here in front of Moore Park.
And then all of this local traffic on it is in orange.
Yeah, I mean, I think realistically anyone could access it who desires. I mean, the road would be open, but in terms of accessing from a through traffic perspective, it would just be basically a change of traffic pattern.
Is there going to be somebody here standing here to make sure nobody actually goes around barriers?
We could consider that.
Is your mic on, Dan? Because Dan? Dan? Yeah.
I'm concerned about if this is local traffic and somebody could go around a barrier, that somebody
Yep.
actually tries to come in. And maybe for the first, at least for the first attempt, if we could put a person at, this barricade, just to make sure nobody drives through.
Okay. And that would be
If
something
that's
essentially, just on this end of the building, you're
So
saying?
this side and the other side, because if you put up a local traffic only and nobody is there,
Yeah.
you might get cars weaving around it and coming through. I'm just concerned that if we don't really control it, that we could get a few cars that try to go around and go through.
Okay.
Are there going to actually be barriers at either side, like white signs that say road closed right in front of here?
I thought it was signs and traffic cones.
Okay, so it's going to be clear where it ends. There's going to be a big, I don't know what you call this, just a sign that says road closed here. So you can't go around it.
I
Sorry.
think it would be really hard to drive through it because I
Yeah.
assume we're gonna block the road off with cones
Yeah.
across. We have cones from like Halloween that we use for slowing down the road, so.
I think that answers my question. What I'm imagining is as I'm driving up to it, it shouldn't be something that people can easily drive around. It's going to be clear that this
You
is
would
where.
have to
yeah.
drive over the cones. And then also we plan to fill, people will be sitting there. We're going to be chalk out for the kids. We plan to like bring in more activities to really like amplify what we're doing. So I think it would be really hard for someone to drive through it from what I envision.
Because from my mindset, because it's such a commuter road, this is a main thoroughfare for people going from Cambridge to Underhill and Jericho, that we really step up, certainly for the first time it happens, just to be sure that we have enough protection that somebody doesn't go around the cones and we get into a pickle with that. I'd like to see it successful so that we can really control the through fare and just make sure that it's staffed or completely blocked off, so nobody makes a decision to try to drive around things and get through.
Okay.
Because it's such a major thoroughfare, that's my only concern. I'm not trying to be difficult, I just want to be, the safety aspect.
Yep.
Get somebody confused and, thinking of older person or young driver.
Do you think it would be best to have someone right at Fairtown and then someone right at the crosswalk? Is that where?
Yeah, on both ends, at least initially to see how it's going. If you really feel, people have got this, it's clear, there's no problems, but at least initially, maybe for the first hour, have somebody stand there just to manage it, given that it's the first time we're doing this. Just so that we're successful.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask, it looks like in the packet you had sent, also this is a great packet. I feel like it was very clear what your plan was, so I really appreciate that. But you had said you would maintain a lane area where if there was emergency vehicles that needed to get through, that would be like maintained throughout the clear area.
Yeah, we wouldn't have things that would be in the road that couldn't move or anything like that. So if there was something where emergency vehicles had to go through, there would be clear access. Just essentially have to move the cones.
Okay. Thank you.
And members of the rec committee will be available to clear the way in the unlikely event that happens with an emergency vehicle.
Yeah, and I think, to be candid on it, I think, this is a week and a day away if we do the June 21st one. We have a meeting next week. And I think, there's 3 of us here now, but if we're talking about staffing and some of those things, we'd have to make sure that we'd have people willing to do that for that time. And as we, are not all of us here, we wouldn't know that probably till we met on Tuesday, if we could pull off that aspect of things.
I'm not as concerned about, and I wouldn't want people from the committee manning the signs for the road closures because they would miss the whole thing. But, just to have people on site who are aware that in the case an ambulance comes And I know that it will be noticeable that people are made aware pretty quickly. So there's not just panic by people. Somebody's in charge.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hearing two things. One is making sure we can clear for emergency vehicles, but then also you're thinking about having a person.
Well, you know,
Right at
having a plan as to how to communicate,
Mhm.
you know, to people.
I think maybe since the band will be playing and there's a
That's
microphone,
good.
that we could be in touch with the band before they start.
Good
And
idea.
we could say, you know, if in case of an emergency, please stop singing right away and announce loudly for people to clear the road.
Very good. Good idea.
That's a great idea. Great plan. It would be fantastic if you could, for this first one, find some volunteers. I would volunteer, but I'm going to be out of town for that week, during that week, so I won't be at the first food truck. But just for the first event, it would be a good idea just to be precautious.
Okay.
Take the cautions to, you know, put somebody at each end, really check traffic, see what's going on. And if it's up, it's a no-brainer, people are following signs, great. But if you've got somebody there, you can at least manage somebody trying to figure out parking, or, you know, they missed the detour sign, they're just confused.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that makes sense. I'm happy to reach out for some volunteers.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, any further discussion? All those in favor of the proposal with the suggestions that we've voiced today, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 4-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, guys.
Anton, you are up.
You're up again here. Your ARPA request for the tennis court.
Okay,
For the next agenda
I
item.
put it in the packet,
perfect.
like you asked.
So this item is Recreation Committee ARPA spending for tennis court improvements.
So we got approved for ARPA funds for buying a rebounder for the tennis courts, and what's in the packet, I just have 3 different price quotes for those of 3 different vendors. Just wanted to put it before the select board in terms of essentially picking one of them. They're all exactly the same. I feel like picking the one is the least expensive would be the way to go. And all of these costs do include shipping. At this point, they're about a month old, so the shipping may have changed a little bit at this point, but I did want to get approval from you as this is a large ticket item. ARPA funds are covering it, so it's not coming over our budget. But this would fulfill one of the ARPA awards from last summer.
Okay, Brad, we do have to approve the ARPA spending each item.
No, we
We
did
don't.
that. So that
Okay.
we did a resolution that, where the rec committee got a certain amount of money, but per our purchasing policy, we need estimates and then you
Okay.
approve the purchase.
All right, so we do need a motion.
And you could preface or say at the end that this is ARPA spending.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the rec committee's request for a tennis court rebounder based on the recommendation in the memo of, what is the company?
Tennis court supply was the low.
That's the name of the company?
Yep.
The recommendation is the tennis court supply in the amount of $5,250. In the event that shipping is a little extra, we'll approve up to $5,300.
I think the ARPA award was up to 6K, so
Okay.
I tried to get as low as I could.
Okay. So let me revise the motion that we approve the tennis court supply recommendation up to 6,000 of ARPA funds that were approved for the Recreation Committee for this effort. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 4-0.
You probably want to stay for this one too. This is the shaved ice. She said this person, Jody Willman, had come to your committee and talked with you about this, she said.
Sure.
I asked her
Yeah.
to be here a little before 6:30.
Okay.
She's not here. But in your packet, there's a vendor, maybe you could explain.
I mean, I suppose, but this isn't really a rec committee thing.
Okay.
All
right.
I mean, I can give a quick, since we're here, I can give a quick overview of it.
Okay,
if you
so we
mind.
are on Town Pond vendor request on the agenda.
Correct.
Yeah, and this wasn't, so I got a, Jody Woman reached out to me just asking about being a consistent vendor at the town pond for a shaved ice table, essentially. And I said, that's not really up to the rec committee. That would be something that the select board would have to consider and approve, if that would be something you would all consider. So I said to her, just send a memo to this body for consideration. And that's why that's under this. So again, that's my quick explanation of this. The rec committee has not discussed this as a body at all. I counsel there more as a resident who understands the process of what happens in front of the town. I counseled her to come here and present her thoughts for that. And then if you wanted rec committee input, we could obviously discuss it in our meeting on Tuesday. But the rec committee, as we haven't discussed it as a committee, has no opinion on the matter at this point because we haven't discussed
I
it as
just
a
want to
body.
back up a second. So I was under
Okay.
the impression that, she approached me originally. I put her in contact with you
Yeah.
and said that you should probably go to a recreation committee meeting to get kind of vetted
Yeah.
for you folks, since you kind of control the town pond, to see if it was a good idea or not.
Yeah.
I guess my recommendation would be that AmCon could talk about this with his other committee members, or is this something you want to entertain now? I was under the impression that this was all vetted through the rec committee.
Do we have any ordinances in terms of people setting up? It's not really a food truck, but it's
Yeah, we would have
table,
to, we would have to consult with our insurance company. There's a few details here.
I believe we do have guidelines to follow. And I am speaking also as a fan of shave ice. However, I know that when Mike Fulham came and he wanted to set up his truck, he was, and refresh my memory, if you remember.
I do. I mean, that was partly why
And,
I thought coming here would be good because I remember the Mike Fulham proposal.
yeah, and while I was supportive of that too, there was some things that he needed to go through. It was a DRB, for, a business, even on town property. You have to check that out. I may be erroneous, but we gave him guidelines and he didn't want to do that. But I think the select board was powerless to be able to do that. And we can't really approve this until we uncover what that process is. Being even-handed is really important, and, welcoming other people. And if I apologize, I'm not real clear on the process that needs to happen. I know that if you have a home business, like up the road with breakfast sandwiches, there was a DRB kind of a thing. I don't know about town property. And, obviously the rec committee had control over the food truck night. So it wasn't the same process. It was your endeavor. And
I'd be
Brad,
happy
is
to,
that
I'd be happy to take a look
Thank
at
you.
the zoning regs
I think that,
and correspond with this person.
Yeah, Brad, if
So-
you could look into what the rules are, whether it's selling ice at the town property or doing something through the food truck night, or if they want to put a little stand out in front of town hall, what are the rules for that?
Yeah,
If you can give us some guidance.
I just kind of got this handed to me when I was putting the packet together, so I
Okay, no
included it.
worries.
yeah, and I would underline, I support her initiative, and I really appreciate her stepping up. I think it's a wonderful idea. but, going through the process really needs to happen.
And I think,
Not only for fairness, but for organization.
well, I think if she had come to the rec committee, we'd have the exact same questions. And I don't feel like the rec committee has the knowledge or understanding of any regulations to say one way or the other. So I think that those are all the same questions you have are the same exact questions I have in terms of, being even-handed, what are the zoning regs? What are the rules for this? What are we doing with trash? Like all these things that are, I think, important questions for this. So again, I don't have an opinion, but I think it's a cool idea. And I also like shaved ice.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
We all hope she can make it happen. All right, so we'll take this, we'll punt it, and have Brad come back to us with what steps she has to go through. All right.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's now move to review bids and award the fiscal year 25
Thanks.
sand hauling. Russ, I think that's you.
Good evening.
Hello.
I'll just introduce myself to you both. I am Russ Clark, a highway supervisor. Worked for the town now for almost 2 years. Myself and my family grew up in Underhill, and I currently live in Cambridge now, but love the town of Underhill and really enjoy being the supervisor for the highway crew. And welcome you both. So in our budget this year, we had approved to add some trucking for our winter sand. And we currently purchase 7,000 tons of sand every year to use on our dirt roads. And it takes a long time to haul that material. It's a lot of wear and tear on our equipment, and we thought it'd be good to see if we could get at least half of it hauled for us. And we put that out to bid, and we were very surprised that we got 8 bids, which you can see in your packet. It ranged from $4.89 a ton delivered, and this is coming from Johnson to our yard, up to $20 a ton. So big spread there. The gentleman that was there, he was at the bid opening that had the $4.89 per ton bid. And the reason it's done by the ton is because we purchased the sand directly from the pit. And this is just, they're hauling it by the ton because we were requesting 3,500 tons. So to haul it by the ton versus by the hour makes total sense. So after the bid, Brad and I talked a little bit and a little nervous about the $4.89 a ton.
Me too.
Very nice gentleman that was there at the bid opening. He's from Montgomery, Vermont. Doesn't sound like a very large company, but they do mostly paving and looking for some work for fill-in work when they're not paving and so on. So I guess if it's a nice summer, they might be doing a lot of paving and maybe they won't have enough time. I don't know. He felt confident that he could get it done. But I'm a little skeptical on it, only because I don't believe he can do it for that amount of money. And I'm a little concerned that maybe partway through he might realize that and then say, well, I can't do this. Maybe it wouldn't happen. This is just my feeling. The number 2 bid was Dale Percy. They're at a Stowe. They're a large excavation company, and they're actually the company that we purchase our sand from. They have roughly, I would say, at least 15 or more trucks to haul with. I think my recommendation would be to award this to Dale Percy with the to support that being that they own the pit, so they have access to doing this at their their leisure. And they have a lot of trucks to make it happen. So that is my recommendation. If you have any other questions, there are a couple bidders that are town residents and taxpayers in the town. But we do utilize those two companies as well throughout the year. So they do get some business from the town. But if you have any other questions on the other bidders or the process to help you make a decision on who we award this to, I'll be happy to answer.
Just one question. You mentioned that you've worked with Dale Percy's company before. Any problems, any issues?
We've only dealt with Dale Percy as far as purchasing our sand from them. So we go to their pit, they load us, we drive it back to Underhill. No problems with working with the.
They do a lot of work. They do a lot of work for the Ethan Allen Firing Range. So they get a lot of contracts there. Their trucks are through town quite often. They do a lot of large projects. They're very well known, have a very good reputation. Old Stowe family. I know them personally. But they purchased the pit, the native gravel pit, sand pit. It's in Johnson. They own the pit. As Russ said, they can basically load their trucks whenever they want, even if it's on a holiday or a weekend. So I support what Russ is saying. As far as the fellow who had the low bid, we did try to do some research on him. Like he did. He seemed like a nice guy. I asked him what he had for a truck. He said a triaxle truck, which is a little larger capacity truck. But then he said in a tandem, he said, we're buying, I couldn't tell if he owned a tandem or.
It sounded like he had one truck and he was trying to purchase
another truck. So, yeah, I agree. I think, and I don't think his feelings would be hurt after hearing what the other bids were. Mm-hmm. So just to put it kind of simply, if you average, say you could haul 20 tons in a trip, it's going to take you at least an hour round trip. Maybe
it's an hour
and a quarter.
It's an hour and 15 minutes without road construction.
Right.
From Jeff to Johnson, which is some delays of up to 15 minutes going from Jeff to Johnson.
So you do the math, that's about
less than $100.
Less than $100 an hour, and trucks are at least 120, 25 an hour. So.
And the other thing with Dale Percy, with their number, that does fall into what we had used for a number when we were planning our.
For the budget?
For the budget.
Okay.
A little bit lower than what we had worked with for a number.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to make a motion that we go with a recommendation to use Dale Percy Incorporated as our sand hauler based on the material presented. Is there a second?
Sure, I can second it.
Thank you. Further discussion? We will make sure they have the appropriate insurance certificates and all that material.
Yeah, they're a very large excavation company.
But just to make sure we have it on record, and you'll talk to them verbally about not going down Pleasant Valley Road and going over the bridge at Dean Road due to the weight limits.
Yeah, that was added to the bid packet as well.
I did see that.
Like we had talked about.
I noticed that in the paperwork, and that was very good.
Yeah. But it's one of those, you can put it in the paperwork, with the person hauling should be talked to, just to make sure that person that's driving knows that that's the instruction.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yep.
So, and it's our policy. We don't, we would have a hold harmless and, or they're a corporation, so not a W-9, but proof of insurance before they even start. We don't do anything without that, ever.
Excellent.
So.
Right, any further discussion? Any further questions? Right, all those in favor of using Dale Percy Incorporated for sand hauling, please say aye.
Aye.
Do you want to?
Aye.
Do you want to just add what the ton price was?
At a price per ton of $8.74
For 3,500 tons.
for 3,500 or
3,500 tons. Yeah.
Let's make that vote again. All those in favor of that recommendation, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes carry 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Russ. You're still up, Russ, with Town Highway Supervisor. Discuss fiscal year 24 tree removal at Daudelin Road.
So Daudelin Road, up off Route 15, across from AJ's Automotive, is a kind of a short road with, I don't know, 5-6 houses maybe on it, roughly like that. But it's a road, as several in town, that have been neglected for quite some time. And about, I believe, 6 years ago, from what I've been told, Don Toby marked trees to be cut on that road. The road's narrow and has a lot of trees growing into the road, and it's almost like a tunnel in places to get through. It's difficult to maintain with plowing in the winter and as well as grading in the summer, and just not very nice traveling up through there. That is one location. We had DJ's Tree Service do a large tree here for us a few weeks ago. But Don Toby, with the previous road foreman, marked that road out for the trees to be cut. And for whatever reason, it didn't get done. And every time I go up there, I think of it when I see the blue dots on the trees and think, we got to get this done. We got to get this done. And so I had a talk with Don Toby this week, and he agreed that definitely should be cut sooner than later. And he went back up and refreshed all the blue markings of the trees to be cut. Mm-hmm. We have fair amount of money left over in our tree cutting budget, in the tune of about a little over $17,000. And I had the bright idea the other day when I talked to Don, was we could try to get that done in this fiscal year if the numbers came out where we could afford to do that. So just in preparation, I did meet with DJ's Tree Service this morning, and they have provided an estimate. I was going to make copies, but I couldn't get into the printer downstairs when I got here. But I do have a proposal to cut, and this is on both sides of the road, all the way up through to the end, to cut this all back for $6,950, and figured about a day's worth of work to do this job with their equipment. The only downfall to this is they don't believe they can get it done before July 1st because they are so busy. I'm not 100% sure how I know what is not used goes into a highway reserve. If there was a way that we could reserve such money till after July, I don't know. That's what I want to have some discussion about that, how we could.
Yeah. So
if you were in favor of getting this done, so on.
So work in the FY24 budget needs to be completed before July 1. Once we get into July 1, then we're in fiscal year 25.
That's what I would assume too.
So I would, there's a couple of things. I appreciate what Russ is trying to do, but we have to also be mindful of our procurement process or procurement policy. But I believe that we put money, a lot of those trees are ash trees. Am I right?
There are some ash trees.
Some ash trees. Okay.
There are some ash trees, yes.
So we did have some money set aside a couple of years ago, right, Dan, for ash tree removal. So this could potentially, if you got into fiscal year 25, there's that money that's there for ash tree removal. That's not that wouldn't rob from the tree removal budget. But at the end of the year, once we get our audit complete, we'll know if we have, we'll know if we came in under budget or we have reserves. Typically, we ask the voters to to help us decide what to do with that. So after we get the audit, we'll figure out how much money we have left over if we have a surplus. Usually we make a recommendation that those funds go into the highway reserve. Highway has to stay with highway versus general fund can go into the highway or stay in general fund, but highway funds, so if Russ has highway funds, they need to stay in the highway budget.
Okay.
They can't go into the general fund. So I would recommend maybe if they can't get the work done, maybe get another price or two just to fulfill our procurement policy, and then maybe look at using some of that ash tree money to help offset the cost. But I think that seemed like a very good bid though.
For the scope of work and the equipment being done or used and the timeline of a day or less to complete that job, I thought was very, very good for the amount of work that needs to be done.
Yeah, I thought that number would be a lot higher.
I did too. So it was
How
very,
long
Yeah.
is the clearing that needs to be done? Is it a quarter mile, half mile, a mile?
it's definitely not a mile. It might be over half a mile.
Yeah, I think it's about a half a mile, maybe
Okay.
just short of that. But it's very dense. The trees are they're kind of growing, it's hard to ditch or do anything
Yeah,
because they're
exactly.
really in the road. It's one of those classic, a road with not many people on it. Used to go through into Westford. But
So just it being a project that should have been done already by now, I'm just trying to get it done if we can. And I understand if we can't get it done in this fiscal year, but it was just an avenue I was trying to reach if possible to get it done in a timely manner.
the good news is what I would recommend is that say we do get a surplus, right? And the voters, move that surplus into the highway reserve. During our next budget cycle, we could beef up on the tree removal line item to kind of help offset that, to maybe do a little bit more aggressive tree removal, like we want to do with the ash tree. We have an ash tree preparedness plan. We need to basically eradicate all the ash before they die, because when they die, they get very costly to remove. Anyway, that's just a recommendation, maybe.
I think that makes sense, and I think we need to get a few more bids, and they should be in the packet for full disclosure for just public information. And I agree the DJ's tree service was a fabulous price quote, and they came to my house and saved our bacon after the January windstorm, and I think very highly of them. But we do need to follow a procurement process and put it in the packet, make sure we get full bids on it.
Okay. Well understood.
Yeah, thank you, Russ.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else for Russ? That's it. So we'll move to consider town hall architectural design proposal. Before you? No worries.
So we had Jennifer as a memo.
Did you put your microphone on?
What's that, Aaron? Oh, sorry, Aaron. Thanks for reminding me. Thanks, Russ. See, even sometimes I forget. So in the packet, there was a kind of an explanation of the process that Jennifer went through. Way back in the last year, we met with someone with the Preservation Trust of Vermont, and they made some recommendations of different consultants that do work in historic buildings. And I think Jennifer mentioned she had reached out to several of them, but didn't hear back. But we did meet with, let me just catch up here. We did meet with, name right here, Jackson Edwards, I believe his name is, or no, Ryan Edwards, sorry. And in your packet, he put together a proposal to basically give us some ideas, put together some existing conditions documentation. So he had that, and he had some existing conditions, digital scanning reimbursements. So basically $750 fixed price, $465 fixed price for the existing conditions, digital scanning reimbursement expenses. And then if we moved on to basic architectural services like a schematic design, he would do that at a fixed fee of $4,500. We all really like him, and his resume is he's worked on a lot of historic buildings. He's an old native Vermonter himself, and I just liked his energy. I thought he was just a really great person, and he was excited. You know, he loves old buildings. So I think I would recommend that to get started, as Jennifer said, you know, we're under the gun a little bit. We've allocated some money, and we should start spending some for the first stages of this renovation.
So Brad, is it a combination of those three numbers for his bid?
Yes,
So
I believe so.
4,500 is the fixed fee plus 750 for the existing condition documentation and 465 for digital scanning.
That's the way I took that, Patty.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the proposal for the architectural work.
Assessment, I guess you could say.
Let me get back to his page here. Propose that we approve architectural services proposal from R. Edwards and Company in the amount of $5,715. And will we be using out of the $175,000 ARPA dollars for this?
Yes.
Which will be funded through the $175,000 ARPA funds that we've allocated to renovating this space. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maureen. Is there further discussion?
I think the pictures look wonderful.
I do too.
And I'm glad that we can have the time to get on it and we have the funds. We've been putting it off a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is the material they put in the proposal is consistent with this building and this space. And they've obviously done similar buildings, so I'm supportive of going through them.
Yeah, it seems like a very good fit for this project.
Agreed. Okay, any further discussion? All right, let's call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay, now we are at the town administrator all items. And Brad, you want to run through these?
Sure. So follow up here for audit request.
Did you put your microphone on?
Russ, oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, you run the mic, Russ, and we'll be all set. Hang on a minute, let me just get organized here. So we did solicit bids for audits for a new audit firm or to maybe entertain a new audit firm. Peisch is currently doing our audit. They chose not to give a bid. So at a prior meeting, the select board decided to go with Sullivan, Powers and Company out of Montpelier. And this is basically a contract, if you will. And Jennifer provided it to me. And I guess it would just, a motion would be in order to accept the.
It looks straightforward. I didn't see anything oddball in there when I read through it. So I'll make the motion. I move that we sign the Sullivan, Powers and Company audit scope and objectives document provided in our packet. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 4-0.
Okay, so the next thing is an update on the 12 Dumas Road buyout. I kind of I had an orientation, a short orientation with Dan and Maureen, and I caught them up to speed a little bit with the buyout. So in your packet was a correspondence from Vermont Emergency Management, basically saying that FEMA has agreed to go with the updated. So when we first started this process back in 2020, we were using old appraisal data, townwide appraisal data, and basically the value of the building has increased. It's doubled. So we had a real estate appraisal done this spring, and FEMA used that appraisal. And I just got news just a few minutes before the meeting, and actually got a official document from FEMA stating that, basically showing the amended fund request to match the appraisal, as well as some matching funds for demolition and so forth. So I won't say any dollar figures here, but it's significantly higher and just what we expected. So going forward, this is just an update. There's no action on this, but going forward, we'll be looking for in the next day or two what's called a voluntary transaction agreement. And that's something the town and the property owner would sign. So it's kind of the first step. If the property owner is on board with continuing to go through this, then we would follow additional steps such as having an environmental review of the house, making sure there's no asbestos. We would solicit bids to have it demolished, all sorts of things. But anyway, that's the update. It's good news. It's great news, actually. And there'll be no money coming out of we'll have to front some money for some of these expenses, but they're all reimbursable from the FEMA.
So we won't take action on the voluntary transaction agreement?
No, we don't have it yet.
Until it comes in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's just an update of where we're at, and things are progressing quite a bit
All right.
faster than I anticipated.
Thank you.
So 658, Bridge 7. I got some indication from the state. As you know, we applied for the structures grant, $200,000 structures grant for the replacement of Bridge 7, which is roughly around an $800,000 cost to replace. FEMA indicated that they would award us the grant this year, but then as we discussed it more, they were under the impression, although I made it very clear that we were applying for the grant, and if we were awarded the grant, that then we would try to figure out how to raise the remaining funds to replace the bridge. So they kind of were under the impression that we were all ready to go, like we had done a bond request with the voters, and that we would be ready to go, because these grants would be effective like next month, July 1. So not being ready to go, VTrans is very hesitant of just awarding that and letting it sit there for a year. That money could be given to another town that's shovel ready to go. So they've assured me in an email that, and to back up a little bit, I told Dan and Maureen this, that we had forfeited a grant that we previously got to get in better position, but we will be in top position next year. So my thoughts were with this was I'd like permission to explore the bonding process and try to figure that out with town staff here. And first order of business would be to call Bond Bank, the Vermont Bond Bank, try to understand. Sherry and I had a meeting with the town's attorney. Bob Fletcher's the bond attorney. And so it's quite a process to this, a lot of, and it mostly deals with the select board. So I'd like to explore how fast it's very possible if we could get this question to the voters on November 11th or November, whenever the whenever the presidential election is. Or if that doesn't work out, we could do it in March. So structures grants are due, they come out in March, the applications, and then they're due April 15th. So if we had proof that our voters approved a bond for the remaining deal, we're, I don't want to say guaranteed, but we are almost certainly guaranteed that we will get the money from them. And then we could actually, if things worked out, we could actually do it in that fiscal year, the same fiscal year as fiscal year 26, if things aligned.
Brad, we need a engineering design for it before.
We have all
we
that.
Have all that.
We have all that.
And
we would
have
need
to
some
refresh numbers given.
Yeah, we
costs?
refresh numbers for this grant.
Okay.
Right, application in March.
So it's very conceivable that we could go to the voters for November.
Yes,
right.
If we can if the timeline, there's some statutory steps we need to make, but I just want to, I'd like to work with Gerry and Jennifer, we get a hold of the bond bank, figure this process out, and go that direction.
Do you need a motion to do that work?
No, I don't need a motion. I just need consensus that, you're okay with me exploring that possibility. The other option, I'll just give you the other option is, we can obviously borrow short-term money, but only up to 5 years. So this is a pretty large sum of money. We'd be looking at $600,000, and that would be a pretty hefty payment. So I think bonding is the way to go. Perhaps we may want to think about adding something else in, like the Pleasant Valley reconstruction. I don't know. Those are options you could have. But if we want to just stick with the 600,000 and go that way, knowing that we have a little bit of highway reserve to play with just in case we go over. It's always a crapshoot when you get into something like that, unexpected expenses. So, and I think we could bond up to a certain amount of money. The other thing that came to mind is, just lost my train of thought, but it is, boy, it's been a long week, sorry.
That's real hopeful communication from the state about that bond.
No, I feel good. I do trust their word.
Yeah, and I certainly support you looking into that further so that we can figure out, what we can do in a direct way as a town to get this ball rolling.
Yeah, I just remembered the other thing I was going to say. So I also thought that, there's not too many people in the bridge world that replace bridges. So Cricket McClusker, our engineer, has a lot of those contacts. Might be worth just reaching out to some of them and see what their schedules are looking like for the next year or two. Is there going to be somebody that's going to be willing to bid on this work? So that'd be good information to have as well. So, but anyway, we will start the process.
Yeah, as Dan said, I support it too, that you start that work.
Yeah.
We can talk later if we want to roll in other projects, bigger projects,
Right.
like bond issuance, but at least get the ball rolling as to what we have to do.
Yeah, and then once we have some complete information, we'll put it back on the agenda again. And
Yeah. And if the bond issue is kind of the biggest hurdle to get past before it can, or if there's any other issues other than the bond that need to be addressed before it can.
so there are some There's some permitting we still need to obtain from the state, as far as like stream alteration and stuff like that. So we could certainly get on board with that. So yeah, so stay tuned. 6. So included the spring 2024 landfill monitoring report. And Bob Ross from Ross Environmental out of Stowe has been doing the testing for many years. Basically, no significant changes were noted. I included the report in the packet. Dan's pretty accustomed to looking at these. I don't know if you saw anything that raised your attention, Dan.
No, I always like what Bob says about, consistency.
Can you turn on your microphone?
No surprises when Bob talks about that. And, the readings are consistent. And it would be obviously good if there would be some movement to have to do it less, but it is what it is in the world of landfill monitoring.
All right, so if you accept his report, I'll have him forward that off to the state for their review.
You need a motion?
Sure, why not?
I'll make a motion that we accept Bob Ross Environmental Associates report on groundwater sampling results dated May 2024. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes carry 4-0.
I think it's nice that we have a stage light that shines on you too, Patty.
You can't see a darn thing. Just sit over here like this. You noticed that too. Okay, that brings us to planning and zoning position.
Yes. So the, our zoning administrator left last July 1, maybe end of June. So I've been filling.
Like yesterday.
It does. So I've been filling that role for almost a year now. We had the board was, I wouldn't say divided, but there were some potential conflicts with the 3-member board that we had regarding the, regarding some of the candidates. So now we kind of decided that we'd bring this back once we had 5 members and deal with it. I'm proposing that we rewrite the job description. I think, sorry, Patty.
I'm just going to lean.
How we can. I'm proposing we rewrite the job description. This position, so 3 of the people in the past that have held this position have been attorneys. There's a lot involved. There's a lot of responsibility, more than you can ever imagine, more than I could even imagine. And I was pretty familiar with how things go. But I'm proposing that we rewrite the job description in such a way, it's tough because you either get someone that's very experienced, that's going to require a higher pay scale, or you get someone that has some skills that you want to train. So the where we've been burned on it before is you get the person that needs to be trained, you train them, they're here a year, they think they know a lot more than they do, and then they go elsewhere. So it would be nice to have some consistency. Andrew Chernisky was an attorney, and he was here for at least 6, maybe 7 or 6 years at least, I think 5 or 6 years. He was excellent. He came on, learned a lot, hit the ground running, and stayed here and really, really changed the position, really set the bar at a different level. So we want to try and maintain that level. So I'd like to take a stab at, with Jennifer, rewriting the job description to be much more specific with what we're looking for. And I'd like to put it back out again. We do have a candidate that was chosen by the committee, and the committee was made up of the chair of the DRB, the chair of the Planning Commission, and myself. Very nice young man with a degree in geography and GIS, which is very helpful, but no experience. So I would encourage him to apply again, but my recommendation is we rewrite this job description and follow the process again, and maybe in hopes of finding someone different or someone new, and actually try to do some more outreach, try to get a broader reach. Vermont Law School, you know, we advertise in 7 days. Vermont League of Cities and Towns, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission has agreed to, you know, spread the word. So just take a little more aggressive approach, try to get it out there and see what we get.
What would be the major changes to the job description that you think would bring in new candidates?
Well, I think that job description is very generic. It's kind of like, I think it needs to be specific of what the roles are.
Would you be actually require a legal degree or some legal experience?
Yes, absolutely. Some legal experience, and whether it was, you know, I'm a retired surveyor, so I have all kinds of legal experience, right? So, but somebody, you know, like the state puts out jobs and they kind of say what they prefer to see, you know, as far as qualifications, but then they also say underneath that, like, however, we would accept people with this skill set, or, you know, you may have a retired attorney, you may have a paralegal, you may have an engineer, you may have a surveyor, all different kinds of professions could be suited to this job, but they need to have the basic skill sets, I think. Very important.
Are we looking at recalibrating the pay for the job as well?
I think we should, yes.
'Cause otherwise, if we don't recalibrate it, we're probably
Right.
going to get the same.
And I think it's important to have
bucket of
a
people.
range, what people can expect. Also, you know, there should be, you know, we should think about some sort of a supervisory period where I just don't want to like bring someone in and turn, unless they're super qualified, but turn the role of zoning administrator over to them completely. We can't do that again. We've had lots of missteps and lots of oversights, and I just think that we need to be mindful of that this is really an important position.
Do the DRB folks and the Planning Commission agree with this approach?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we agreed. You know, certainly if you had somebody that was in more of a training program, I would never, you know, I'd be more than happy to stay on as zoning administrator, but you could coach them. They could go through all the motions of putting a permit together, doing the research, you know, then I could review it and then basically sign off on it until we felt comfortable that they were able to go on their own. Because what I won't do is we hire someone that stays a year and then jump back into that position. I've done nothing but clean up, so I won't do it again.
Right.
I'm supportive of your plan.
So we'll come back at you with a job description and a little bit more. I just wanted to get it on the agenda, and Jennifer wanted it to. It's been a long time.
That makes sense.
So
It's a good plan of attack.
all right.
By August, we should have somebody.
Wishful thinking.
Put a timeline.
Put a timeline on it. You're right. It's always good to put timelines.
It really is.
You're right.
It really is, because it's been almost a year now, and you know, you got to try to really have a guideline that you're going to go crazy, and it's not good for you.
Right. So maybe a good goal, for short-term goal would be to have a job description for the next meeting. How's that
Go
sound?
forth and conquer.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
So the last thing I have is the Underhill Center sidewalk. It's like a final presentation. So, oops, is that me or you? I always got to keep track in case Aaron's trying to.
Spotlight's gone. Clouds.
So, as you know, we signed on for a scoping study to entertain possibilities of putting a sidewalk through Underhill Center here from Sand Hill to the Tomasi Meadow area. And we got a grant through Chittenden County Regional Planning. And we pay, I think it's either a 10 or 20% match. And the consultant has really stepped into high gear and put together some amazing, I'm very impressed. We were off to a little bit of a slow start. We had kind of a kickoff meeting. There wasn't a lot of information, but now we have a lot of information. So what goes along with this grant is kind of guidelines that Chittenden County Regional Planning oversee. And public input is very important. So the next meeting will be for the public. So the last time we had kind of a meet and greet here, and then the select board heard the presentation. This time I want to try to do it a little differently. So we're looking at July 2nd, which is a Tuesday, to have a meet and greet, and then have a public forum where the public can be heard. The select board's welcome to come and join that meeting if you want, but it won't be a formal meeting of the select board. After they've obtained the public comments and considered some of those in their scoping study or their proposal, then the final step would be a presentation to the select board. And that would not be a public forum. That would be just a presentation to the select board. And that would kind of close out the grant. So again, I'm very impressed. I think we've come a long way, and there's some great ideas. And I think after that final presentation, we can talk about steps moving forward with our own little sidewalk project that's kind of a part of that.
Okay, excellent.
So look for that July 2nd,
Okay.
as I said, and it won't be anything select board oriented, but you're all welcome to come and just see where the progress is.
And how will we get notice out? The usual?
It's going to be, we're meeting this Wednesday, Sarah Pelli and the consultant and myself, we meet basically every week or every other week. So we're going to firm that date up, and then we'll put out a press release.
Okay. Front porch forum.
Everything, yeah.
Okay.
It'll be actually, maybe even, I don't know if we'll put it in 7 days or not, but we may.
Okay.
So really happy also we changed our paper circulation to 7 days. They are so great to work with. Light years beyond the new free press. But anyway, that's all I have.
All right. That's a lot. Look forward to the sidewalk information. That'll be good.
Yeah, I think you're going to be pretty pleased.
All right. That brings us to closing public comment period. Is there anybody from the public on the virtual world?
I just see Penny Miller, but this would be your last chance to get the final word.
Penny, do you have any public comment?
I do. I support Brad's idea 100% about the zoning administrator. That's
Thank
all I have
you.
to say.
Thank you.
And I also want to give kudos to Penny. Of course, Penny's an alternate on our development review board, and she's been a great deal of help to me, and I really appreciate all she does. So thanks, Penny.
Thank you for that work, Penny. Okay, any other public comment from the virtual land? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to review and approve AP warrants. It's just the one from June 6th.
Yeah,
June
it's the one on top, and then
June
the other warrants in the folder, Dan, are just need additional signatures. Those are approved
Right.
at a prior meeting, so it's the top warrant. And Dan and Maureen, I apologize that the full AP warrant was not in the packet that you received. So what our practice is Jennifer sends out the full AP warrant to the select board and myself. And there's a lot of sensitive information in there. So I condense it down basically to the summary of the report or of the warrant. But Dan has the warrant. And maybe I would encourage, if you wanted to pass it down, just to.
I'll put a motion on the table that we approve the AP warrants for 6/13/2024.
I'll second that. Is there any further discussion?
I have no further discussion.
Hearing none, all those in favor of the AP warrants from June 13th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes carry 4-0. So do you want to have Dan and Maureen sign these?
Probably not, because it was produced before you were sworn in.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That makes total sense. So that's it for AP warrants. What else do we have? Any member items, correspondence, announcements, schedule? I'll just make a reminder note, especially for the two new select board members. I am going to be away from June 19th through June 29th. I'll be out of the country. So I'll miss the last meeting of the month. Harvest Crossing public hearing.
Yeah, so I included a couple correspondence. This typically would be sent via certified mail, but we don't really send certified mail to ourselves. So the notice is really for you. It's the Harvest Crossing subdivision, preliminary subdivision review hearing, which is the affordable housing project. The reason you're receiving notice is because of the park. Veterans Park, the little triangle in front, is directly opposite the church. So by law, we give public notice to adjoining landowners, even ones that are across a public highway. So that's taking place on July 1. So that's in your packet. So these should be considered hand delivered. And then the other thing was just a memo from Jennifer regarding medical insurance increases in the next calendar year. Something just a FYI type thing.
There's not much we can do to control that.
No,
That's
unfortunately.
crazy.
That is
Quite
a huge increase.
It's a huge increase.
It's crazy. 19%.
Yeah.
And then I guess the next regular scheduled meeting is Thursday, June 27th.
All right.
Any conflicts from anyone besides Patty?
I may, but I'm not entirely sure quite yet, but once I have it confirmed, I'll let you know.
Okay.
And I will just have to attend remotely. I'll be out of town, but I can attend.
Okay. That's totally fine.
All right. Is there anything else?
That's it.
All right. Motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Congratulations, your first select board meeting.
I had to spin